Ladies and gentlemen, the Assistant Adjutant General for Air of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, Brigadier General Robert Brooks.
Pants are too tight, can't get the notes out. Kara, Natalie, Nicole, Mr. and Ms. Fontenot, and the Fontenot family, the Parks family, from the men and women of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, we offer our deepest sympathy, condolences, thoughts, and prayers. I did not know Moose Fontenot personally, but in talking with several of his friends and being on the receiving end of so much overwhelming support from across the globe in all ranks, I could not help but think of Proverbs 27:17, which states, "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." I am sure every pilot in the 104th Fighter Wing, and many of you out in the audience, feel sharpened by Moose. Just as you are all sharpened by him in life, I have been sharpened by him in his death. Moose had a goal which was shared by Cobra up here earlier and by Colonel Haldopoulos to me, and it was simple: to stay in longer and keep contributing. In discussions with Colonel Keefe over the past year about how things were going in the wing and future leaders, Moose Fontenot's name kept coming up over and over and over. It was evident to me Moose made a huge impact in this wing in a short amount of time. In a day and age where people want something for nothing, it is crystal clear Moose was a great American and wanted nothing despite giving his all. He was also a husband, father, son, fighter squadron commander, fighter pilot, weapons school graduate, and the list goes on. Thank you, BOA. I would ask the 104th Fighter Wing to continue to be sharpened by Moose in his death. In talking with Major Galuli, Moose followed the rules, and he could beat you following the rules. I suspect Moose would tell you and probably challenge you all to get back on the horse, get back in the Eagle, do it right, and continue to prepare for the next conflict, which will happen. He would expect it from you, and he would set the bar high, and as all the gentlemen before me have said, he'd help you reach that bar. I want to thank everyone here in the wing for how you've responded to this tragedy. You are the best America has to offer. Keep your head held high. I love every one of you. Moose, we'll miss you. Strength and honor and Godspeed.
Thank you, General Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, the Adjutant General of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, Major General Scott Rice.
This doesn't get any easier. I've done this several times now in my short command the last couple of years. We've lost some of our warriors in our midst. And as I said, this does not get easier. It's something special that we have when we put that uniform on. Something unique. I know we all start this business wearing the uniform, dedication to our country, but really it's usually personal. We go to the academy because it's an opportunity to get a free education. But as you walk this path, wearing, serving, honoring our country, you find that it's deeper than a free education. It's significantly deeper than a paycheck. It's about camaraderie. It's about fellowship. It's about honor. It's about patriotism. Yeah, when I started it all, I said, I'm all about this freedom, all about this business, all about this service. And At an early age, as a young fighter pilot, I would die for my country. I would die for liberty. I would fight to the end of the earth for that. But the depth of what that means is never, ever stops evolving in us when we put on this uniform, when we wear it, when we serve our country. You know, we find a lot of ways to serve our country. I've found it by putting the uniform on and coming to serve and being a part of that. I know our elected representatives are here, our senators, our congressmen, we have many secretaries here. We have other general officers. We have other community leaders that are here from local, state, and the federal government. And we all serve. We all serve for each other, for our family, for our friends, our neighbors. And it's something special that we do in this military. I have the honor of standing here representing the governor. I have Secretary Schwartz, my supervisor, my boss here with me, and together we both are here to say some words from the governor. And in thinking about that, he said something that was inspirational, I think, for a lot of us when we had this tragic event on April 15th, a year and a half ago, and we had this bombing in Boston, the bombing of Boston Marathon. And he said, in the face of adversity, what does our community do? We can fight each other, we can point at each other, we can find and lay blame on each other. It tears us apart. We can see examples of that throughout the world. What controversy does, what stress does. And I tell you, I've been there. I've been under great stress at times, and it's been hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to step through all that. But the governor brought the words of, what this has done to our community is make us stronger. And this community here at Barnes Air National Guard Base is my family. It's my wife, Nancy, and I, our family. It's what has made us stronger. We've raised our 2 kids here. They're a part of this family. We could feel that from Moose, from Kara, from Nicole and Natalie. They're our family. They're all a part of this. This has been tremendous support for me to be a part of this family. As I said, it doesn't get easier. This is very hard. This is very tough for myself, my family, my friends, all of you here in uniform. But it's warm, 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 like this fall day, with a breeze that goes through this hangar. It touches your soul, this family. Look at every single person in this room, except a few of us in our blues, are actually out of uniform. And you're out of uniform in respect for one man, one family. You're all wearing your black T-shirts. You're not supposed to do that. And I appreciate that. It's an act that shows what we all have in us. And if you look at the back of this program, if you're so fortunate to have one of these, Robin Olds coined some things on here that I thought are unique. Fighter pilot is an attitude. It's cockiness. It's aggressiveness. It's self-confidence. It is a streak of rebelliousness and competitiveness. But there's something else. There's a spark. There's a desire to do good, to do well in the eyes of your peers and your own mind. A fighter pilot is a man in love with flying. A fighter pilot sees not the cloud, but beauty. He is a man who wants to be second best to no one. That's what you are. That's what those black shirts represent. That's who you have become. That's what we have become. Moose Fontenot may be gone, but he will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, General Rice. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of the 104th Operations Group, Colonel Alex Haldopoulos.
Thank you, General. Good afternoon. I'd like to first welcome our distinguished guests and members of the 104th Fighter Wing and your families. I'd like to thank the Fontenot family for joining us today. I know the internment and the service at the Air Force Academy in October is the main event, and I know this has not been easy for you today, but your presence at this ceremony means so much to me and the men and women at this wing. I also wanted to recognize Major Elmer Galuli. Stand up. Major Elmer Galuli and his wife Laura as the family liaison officer. Elmer and Laura have been by the Fontenot side throughout this ordeal. Elmer, these have been extremely challenging times, but I'm proud of your service and commitment to Moose and his family. You're a great barnstormer, my friend. We've gathered here today to pay our respects to Lieutenant Colonel Morris Fontenot, Jr. I'm sure Moose is looking down at us, just a bit humbled by this amazing turnout. I hope to share with you something about the man and this amazing cast of family members that supported him and inspired him to greatness. A little less than a year ago, in the fall of 2013, I was first introduced to the concept of Moose. Some of our pilots had just returned from an overseas exchange with Moose's active duty squadron, the 67th Fighter Squadron at Kadena Air Base. What probably started out as a whimsical what-if conversation amongst bros with just a few too many double Jack and diets very rapidly began to develop real legs and eventually resulted in welcoming the Fontenots to Western Massachusetts in January of 2014, followed a couple months later by our newest barnstormer, Moose. I can distinctly remember the interview last fall where we laid out the possibilities for Moose. He was promised very little, hired to fill a government service position as a technician. Moose was being recruited to come to Barnes to lead the wing's new Air Force inspection program. He said it then in the interview, and I absolutely know it now. His goal was quite simply to continue serving his country and keep contributing. We were thrilled to have the opportunity to call Moose a barnstormer. He took a huge leap of faith in joining the 104th, with less than 3 years remaining before he qualified for a full retirement. And he set off shockwaves throughout the active duty world as someone who had the Air Force in the palm of their hand and decided to give the Air National Guard a shot. Moose wanted to further the relationships between the active component and the Guard. In this day and age of budget cuts and drawdowns, he knew his focus on people, coupled with his knowledge of the legislator way in Washington, D.C., could pay great dividends for the F-15 and the air dominance community. This is what made Moose tick. He wanted to continue doing as much good for as many people for as long as possible. Real, selfless leadership. It wasn't long after his arrival here that Moose began having an immediate impact on the mission and the people. He was all about building relationships, and I'm not just talking about getting to know the fellow pilots in the squadron. Moose quickly spread his wings and established himself as someone who really cared about the men and women who were fortunate enough to have worked with him. He was unstoppable. He lived life to the fullest, both on and off duty. And he was extremely proud to finally be able to give his family a home in Longmeadow that was deserving of the dedication and commitment they gave to him while serving across the globe. I can stand here today and say to you that we never saw the real full potential of Moose. I got to know Lieutenant Colonel Fontenot, the pilot, the bro, the deployed troop commander, the inspection team lead, but there was more there waiting to be unleashed. Colonel Fontenot, the commander, a natural leader and someone so deserving to return to that role. As Colonel Keefe stated earlier, his future was bright. We are devastated to not be able to share in that future because, make no mistake about it, Moose Fontenot was a difference maker for the group, for the wing, for the Commonwealth, for the Air National Guard and the U.S. Air Force. Last Wednesday, 27 August 2014, just prior to 9 o'clock Eastern Time, in the hills of Deerfield, Virginia, Moose's life came to an inexplicable and grossly premature end. The man who had so much more to give and live was taken from us. And on Thursday, after a day of cautious optimism turned so suddenly to the grim reality that Moose was found in the airplane, I had to do what was easily the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. With your wing commander, Colonel Keefe, Moose's good friend Elmer, my wife Kathleen, and Elmer's wife Laura, we had to tell Kara that Moose didn't get out of the jet and he was no longer with us. As miserable and heart-wrenching as that moment was, I was honored to be there, to be witness to an incredible woman's courage and composure. A wife turned widow who immediately snapped back to her maternal instincts and told those two beautiful children that their father had passed. That family, Kara, Natalie, and Nicole, they have been extremely strong throughout this terrible ordeal, unlike me. And I've learned so much and been inspired just being witness to their love and character. Kara is an amazing woman. Her daughters are just like their mom, and we are lucky and proud to call them part of this wing. They have shared with me that Longmeadow will remain their home. The men and women of the 104th Fighter Wing will care for Kara and the girls. You can count on that. And I ask that you keep them in your hearts and prayers over the next few days, weeks, and months, and continue to welcome them to our community. I'd like to close with a quote written about someone who lived and flew in another time. I see where he lost his life flying, yes. Physical life here, maybe. But he gained far more life eternal than he lost in a single moment doing what he loved. And that he added to others' lives immeasurably with the way that he lived his. And wonderfully, an untold number will be inspired by the gift of his story and his memory. Long live men like this pilot. Long live the legend of Lieutenant Colonel Morris Moose Fontenot, Jr. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. It's my honor and privilege to introduce a remarkable woman, the wife of Moose, Mrs. Kara Fontenot.
Please be seated and be comfortable. Moose and I have known each other since we were kids. We met as fourth-class cadets at the United States Air Force Academy when I was 17 and he was 19. We met during basic cadet training when I was in a hallway, pinned against the wall, being verbally attacked and hazed by upper-class cadets. I was alone at the time. Without hesitation, he rushed to my side, bringing the attack upon himself. Once our attackers finally left, he took me into a private room and comforted me and polished my boots for me. My terrible boot polishing skills had brought on the attack. He told me that I was doing a great job and that our upper-class cadre were just being jerks. He has been taking care of me ever since. I've known him for 22 years. We've been a couple for 20 years. We've been married for 18 years. I loved him, trusted him, and respected him, and I will remember him forever. Moose had my back. I knew that if I were ever in trouble or danger, that without hesitation he would fight for me and protect me in every way. For the first time in 20 years, I find myself without my teammate, and it is a very lonely feeling, and I am mourning my immense loss. The way we met is just one example of the way that Moose and I were a team. We made decisions as a team, and we acted as a team. We built a life together. His Air Force career became my Air Force career. We relocated our family together, and we took care of people together. Although I never shared in his rank or his authority, I shared in his responsibility, specifically his responsibility for taking care of the people who worked for him and their families. Moose loved flying F-15s, but what he loved even more was taking care of people. During his years in the Air Force, he saw each person who worked above him, with him, or for him as an individual. And he cared about each person individually. During the short 6 months that he was a barnstormer in the Massachusetts Air National Guard, I think many of you had an opportunity to interact with Moose. But he never held command here, so you never saw him at his best as a leader. You didn't have enough time to see the way that he would challenge and motivate people to do their best work. He never accepted mediocrity from himself or from others. He had high expectations and pushed people to work hard and to perform better. However, he also loved every single person who worked for him in a very personal way and forgave each his weaknesses. He fought for his people with no holds barred, taking care of the people who worked for him like a father and like a brother, with no concern for his own career or promotion or advancement. Moose was not a box checker or a square filler. He focused on the things that mattered most. He was the first to sacrifice when sacrifice was required. I cannot count on both hands the number of people who have told me that they would follow him into combat and put their lives in his hands because they trusted him completely. He was excited to be part of this unit, and he had plans for you, Barnstormers. Your loss is almost as great as my own. As General Rice said, the Barnstormers are a family. And Barnstormer family, I want to thank you for all that you've done to honor Moose and to take care of the girls and me, like we are your family. The very best thing that Moose and I did together was having our two lovely daughters and raising them from babies to the beautiful, strong, brave young ladies they are today. We were always united in their best interests. They are his legacy to me and to the world, and all of his best qualities will live on through them. Natalie and Nicole, you know your daddy loved you and was so proud of you. What you will never fully be able to understand is that you brought him more happiness than anything else in the entire world. When he looked at you, his heart melted, and that very strong man was brought to his knees with vulnerability because of his love for you and his desire to protect you. You were more important to him than anything else, including his Air Force career and flying F-15s. You were always number one with him. Daddy will always be with you because over the years of your life, you became part of him and he became part of you. He will live on inside of you, and during the moments when you are hurt or sad or tired or afraid, but you go on anyway and keep fighting and loving and smiling and never give up, that will be your dad there, being strong inside of you. Daddy has some tough women. Every single one of us is a fighter and strong and brave, but we will cry and we will be sad, but we are going to be okay. Moose will never be forgotten. He was a good man, a strong Air Force leader, and a loving husband and father and son. When I remember him, I will always remember that he had one goal that remained the same over all of the years that I knew him. He wanted to make the greatest possible difference in the lives of the greatest possible number of people. And based on the outpouring of love, respect, and memories of him that people are sharing from all over the world, I know it is impossible to measure the difference that he made or the number of lives that he touched. When I remember him, what I will always remember most is how much he loved people, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, wealth, or rank. Moose seemed to see past all of that straight to a person's heart and spirit. He knew that all people really want is to be loved and respected for the best parts of themselves, and those were the parts that he embraced. He knew how to make each person he interacted with feel loved and special, and that is his legacy to us. Thank you.
On behalf of Colonel Keefe and the Fontenot family, our federal, state, and military leadership in attendance, thank you all for attending and sharing this memorial and celebration of remembrance for Lieutenant Colonel Moose Fontenot. Please stand as Colonel Fontenot's family and our senior leadership make their way to the East Ramp for final honors, and follow them as you view the flyover and missing man formation. For safety, please remain clear of the F-15s behind me in order to view the memorial flyby. Thank you.